Now let's go over to France, where President Emmanuel Macron is urging fellow European leaders to take action on Ukraine, not just sit around and wait for the US. He even suggested putting troops on the ground. He said that's still a possibility. But Kosha, perhaps he should be reaching deep into his own pockets. According to the Kiel Institute, which measures military aid sent to Ukraine, France has committed €500 million compared to Germany, which has given 17 billion, and the UK 6.6 billion. Of course, all of that pales into insignificance, Kosha, when you look at the amounts the US has contributed.
It does, and the whole issue of Ukraine has really turned into a lightning rod issue and a very polarizing issue as the months have ticked by since the invasion began. And largely in the West, the citizenry, the electorate, is less and less supportive of sending aid. That's just the reality. And so a lot of these leaders are looking at that audience. But then there's also a lot of pressure internationally and reasons for why they want to support Ukraine. And they're also looking at that audience. And I think what Macron's trying to do is kind of speak to both audiences at the same time, who contradict each other. And that would reflect the aid that he's given, since it is very unpopular. But then he's simultaneously speaking a different tongue, I think, to the leaders and saying that. And I think that's what we're seeing evidenced here.
There's been much commentary about Donald Trump's comments about a week ago about NATO and the threats he made to try to pump up their funding from the European allies. How do you think he will handle it if he's back in the White House? How will this conflict be impacted? I know it's an impossible question.
Yes. $1 million question, though. So look, he has famously said, when I'm in, it'll be done in 24 hours, right? That's what he says. He doesn't tell us with what or how. It sounds like, if you take the bluster out of Trump, what he's saying is some kind of negotiated deal, which will include some ceding of territory, which is unpopular in some corners. It sounds like that's kind of the angle he would go with, because he doesn't want more U.S. involvement. He doesn't want more funding, and that's the way to do it. But who knows? And there's a lot of wood to chop before we're in that scenario.
Well, he famously threatened to nuke Moscow if Putin invaded Ukraine under Trump's reign. So he's not above making some threats. And I guess if they don't know if he's serious or not, they behave. And they behaved whilst he was in power. Now, let's talk about Gavin Newsom's California. Crime in San Francisco is so bad that customers are no longer allowed to shop by themselves in certain stores. They need to be escorted. Everyone gets a personal shopper, even to buy hardware. Take a look at this local news report.
This is what you'll find entering Fredrickson's Hardware and Paint in Cow Hollow. The table alerts customers to wait for assistance at the door, a move that's being attributed to, quote, rampant shoplifting.
It's pretty bad. I mean, the dollar amounts are pretty significant, and with the tools, and now we're getting snatch and grabs where they come in and take whole displays. So it's getting kind of dangerous for the employees and the customers.
Store manager Sam Black says for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, an employee will work with an individual customer. The table serves as a way to keep potential thieves from moving freely in and out of the store.
We just want to make it uncomfortable for the thieves so they go somewhere else.
Black says over his 24 years of working at Fredrickson's, the theft is the worst it has ever been. Staff has had to drill down pots and pans to keep shoplifters from swiping them. They've also had to put in locking systems to keep people from pocketing tools and other household hardware. One customer telling Cron 4 off camera that the situation is just sad.
This is Democrat heartland, and this is Gavin Newsom's California. He was mayor of San Francisco before he became the governor, and so many Democrats want him to run for president and, I don't know, bring some of this magic to the entire country. It is, like they said there, a sad, ugly time.
It is, with such a charming spin on it. Personal shopping, that was that was creative, whoever came up with that. But it's true, it's so sad. This is one of the most beautiful, successful, iconic cities ever created in the history of the world, and what has happened is a direct consequence of policies. You decriminalize felony charges, turn them into misdemeanors, you convert the place into a consequence-free society. This is what you're going to get. And we've seen them clean it up. When President Xi was visiting, they could clean up certain problems very quickly in a day. But I think a lot of people feel that this is by design, because if we wanted to stop it, we know how to.
Well, of course it's by design, because as you've said, it's policies that have got us here. And California is about the most blessed corner of the world. It's beautiful. It's blessed with natural resources. It should just be home to the most successful cities in America. And yet Californians are fleeing in huge numbers to Texas and Florida and Tennessee because of that.
It is. It really is a shame. And you look at El Salvador and Bukele as an election over there. It was the homicide capital of the world. And so quickly he was able to turn that around with much stricter, consequential approaches to how you govern society. That is a signal for anyone who wants to do it. But I think things have to get bad enough before we get somebody like that in there to turn it around.